For those of you who don't know about ALEC, which hopefully isn't too many of you, I'll just give a very brief overview. ALEC has a number of task forces. I think there's about 9. ALEC actually started in 1973 and pretty much flew under the radar for all of those years until just a few years ago when they had some very controversial policies sort of hit the fan, so to speak. Basically what ALEC does, which makes it a very unique organization, is it brings legislators together with corporate CEOs to write model or template bills to be passed through state legislatures. Now, we've always known that there's kind of a revolving door in Washington of the private and the public folks. We've always known that the corporations, in some sense, are sitting with legislators to write bills. We know they have big lobbyists in Washington and so on, so this is not necessarily news. But ALEC is a fairly unique institution in that it is tax-free because it is able to present itself as an educational organization or a charity organization, and it does have an aspect that is a sort of think tank. It releases an annual report card judging schools by sort of libertarian criteria. It has some publications, but its main core reason for being is to prepare model bills to push through state legislators. And ALEC claims a 20% success rate of getting its bills through. This issue of what influence it has is often hard to pin down. A lot of journalists have done some research, probably research we should have been doing, but they've been basically saying, here's the bill that was passed in New Jersey, here was the ALEC template bill, how much of the language is the same or similar or whatever. So there's been actually some attempt to actually empirically begin to have some data on the success of their bills. So they are not just a lobbying organization, although they are that. They're actually more than a lobbying organization. The important thing to understand also is that the legislators pay $50 to join ALEC, which is a sort of symbolic amount. The corporations pay, I think it's something like $50,000. It varies, I think, depending on the size of the corporation. But what essentially happens, it's kind of like, I don't know if this is still true, but in the old days, when you went to these clubs, the women got in free and the guys had to pay to get in so they'd have access to the women. It's kind of like that. The corporations, pay all this money to get to dance with the legislators, right? Who essentially get in free. It's a membership fee-based organization, and that's important because it means that they're not dependent on foundation money, on so-called soft money, right? They're sustainable through a very strong membership base fee system, which was threatened recently as many corporations began leaving ALEC because, what's it been, 2 or 3 years ago, there were 3 big issues. America woke up one day and discovered that something like 30 states had passed laws, stand your ground laws. So when the Trayvon Martin thing surfaced, people began to take a look at these stand your ground laws in various states. The voter ID laws suddenly appeared in all these states. And as you folks in Wisconsin are well aware, a lot of states were passing anti-labor laws around contract, collective bargaining, and so forth. Some journalists began to connect the dots and began pointing to an organization, a little-known organization called ALEC. Nobody had really heard of ALEC. ALEC had been very successful at flying under the radar, but suddenly ALEC became, if not a household word, at least no longer a sort of secret organization. The pushback on ALEC came, and the reason that a lot of organizations, corporations began to pull out was because their task force on elections and safety, one of their 9 task forces, co-chaired by the National Rifle Association, was the task force responsible for the stand your ground laws and the voter ID laws. That's where most of the sort of neoconservatives, as opposed to sort of neoliberal corporate types, were in that task force. ALEC closed that task force with the pushback from the corporations. A lot of the better known corporations did not want to be associated with the voter ID laws and the stand your ground laws. The less known corporations, the one that are not household names like Coke and so forth, I think maybe didn't see that anybody would know the difference, and so they stayed in. Next.